just like even the internet. Okay, we're using it for something good right now, but it's obviously corrupt, right? And it messes people up with pornography and other things that are going on all the time. But and that's the internet we know about. There's the dark web below that of all
Right.
this other stuff that's
Crazy.
going on, and so here's the thing. Our full potential is not being realized here yet. We're at a crossroads the next couple of years till the end of 2022. Everything is going to be revealed. It is being revealed. This was told to me in 2013. It was actually shown to me because I had asked some of my contacts beyond this world, benevolent beings. I asked them, I said, look, okay, I asked you, what is wrong with this place? I know there's something going on there. And then they showed me that. I think it was 2011 or 12. Okay, so I got that, and I published that. I reported that thing about these Archon demons, whatever, manipulating us from the dark side.
Yeah.
But then, like, okay, so I see the problem. What is the solution? Because honestly, I couldn't see it, and obviously nobody else did either. Because if we knew the solution, we'd be putting it into practice. We would have solved the problem by now, right?
Right.
So I was asking them, and I didn't really expect like such a quick response, but apparently this is a huge issue with them because they're working on it all the time behind the scenes. And I said, okay, so how is this going to be resolved? Because I personally don't think we can do it by ourselves. What is the plan here? And then they showed me these waves of energy washing over the planet, and it was waking everybody up. And a lot of people were freaking out. Some of them were passing away from heart attacks because they couldn't handle. It was such a shock to their system because they'd been lied to for so long about, the nature of who we are and where we are and stuff like that. But then in the process, everything was going to be revealed, and everyone, whether they wanted to or not, was going to have to make a decision as to whether or not they were going to work with the light side of the force, or were they going to continue to work with the dark side of the force? Because unfortunately, this world is very much under the control of the dark side, has been for a relatively long time in Earth years, the way we measure time, right?
Yes.
But that is coming to a close, or I should say, it's unsustainable. It never was sustainable, and it's going to collapse on its own self in very short order. Because what's happening is they know that people are waking up as this energy is coming onto the planet. It's amplifying. In other words, it's just an amplifier. So if your consciousness is already in the light now, wow, it's risen a lot. Okay, it's amplified. But if you're in the dark and you're fearful and angry and you've got all that dissonant energy in you anyway in your heart, and now suddenly this extra energy comes in and amplifies it, it's going to push you down even further. And that's why you see people being so incredibly polarized right now, more than any other time I've ever studied about. But it's actually serving a purpose. It serves a very, very, very important purpose, which is the separation ultimately of these two camps entirely. Because again, from reading The Astral City, what I learned was that there is a very strong delineated demarcation between the lower astral. Those beings cannot ascend past a certain point and cause trouble, because we typically call these things angels, the God's army, right? They enforce this rule, and these lower beings cannot come up. Conversely, though, the beings of light, the angel, the true benevolent angels, they can descend into the lower darkness if there's a need. And the only time there's a need is when an individual soul is suffering so badly that they finally realize, I don't want this. I made a mistake. Please forgive me. Actually, you need to forgive yourself first, because all this is self-imposed. See, this is the thing about free will.
Yeah.
It isn't some judgment from a higher authority. It's a decision. It's a choice. And a lot of times, because the dark side is so manipulative, we think it's a good choice, and it ends up, the consequences are horrible. But we can learn from it. Okay, see, this is the other thing about divine mercy. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm not a religious person. So I just want to be clear about that, because some people think certain buzzwords, they think it's religious when I'm talking, but my purpose to say these words is to help put things in the proper context, which is we're all divine beings. Those of us who are truly souls and not part of this artificial construct made by the dark side. We have a potential to grow into something, I guess you would say, divine or godly. We are creators. We were created by a creator to be creative. And unfortunately, a lot of that creativity here is used to and manipulated by the dark side to create things that are destructive, which is, it sounds oxymoronical, but it is. But like, for example, scientists often they're inspired, right? They get these, or musicians get the muse, right? They get the voices coming in.
Yes.
So they're saying sometimes they don't want to admit this, but I know everybody is basically schizophrenic to some point, and we're all hearing voices, and whether you pay attention to it or not, that's up to you. But some of these scientists were like, "Oh, I've got a great idea. I know how to protect us. We'll build an atomic bomb."
Great idea.
Yeah, it's going to protect us, Okay. And on the other side of the earth, another scientist gets the same idea. Well, where's that coming from?
Yeah.
It's not divine. No, it's profane. It's coming from the dark side. And they do that. And so again, like, okay, you'd say we're victims. Not really. Because if anybody could hear that, but only a fool would act on that.
And not check with themselves and their intuition to see, like, is this a really good idea? Let's sit with it for a minute. Like, let's really think about this.
Well, they actually said, some of the scientists, this is on public record, they said, well, we could actually ignite the entire atmosphere of the earth and kill everybody if we set off an atomic weapon. But let's try it anyway. I mean, really? Are you that stupid?
Wow.
It's sort of like, it's really not about intelligence as much as it is intuitive, like you're saying, because the ego, our egos here in this limited form, are very fragile. And so there's this motivation to say, oh, I'll get a prize, or I'll be famous, or whatever,
I'll be remembered.
Yeah. And it's in a way, it's a real detriment.
Yeah.
It's a weak point, and the dark side knows that. They know how to exploit it. It's wild.
Yeah. I always think about this, dark side, and all the things you're saying really resonate with me. I'm with you in my understanding of how things work. And I always think about the dark side though, and I'm like, why are you like, what is your ultimate goal? If you know how the system works and it's not, and it can't be cheated, then what is the point of this? And I don't ever understand that. I never understand, like, is it just misery loves company? Is it that they think there is some way for them to sort of like bypass something, or, are they just jealous that we're kind of on our way up and they're trying to hold us down with them, but then that like pushes them down further? So like, why?
Well, that's okay. You're asking a lot of good questions, but the thing is, it's not a monolithic type of consciousness.
Yeah.
Although they work together, you've got to understand there's different levels within the hierarchy. So my understanding really evolved I thought it was a mistake. I thought the dark side was actually a mistake by God, or the creator, or whatever you want to call it, that created all this consciousness. And why would something creative and loving actually create something that's destructive? That doesn't make sense, But apparently it serves a purpose. Not only does it test us and allow us to use our free will to make choices that ultimately we really learn. If you have to learn the hard way, and apparently some of us do, then that's available to you, right?
Right.
But the other thing that really blew my mind, this is a series of children's books in my library that I came across last year, also from a South American author. Did you read that? Did you see it?
I just saw it, and I thought that'd be interesting to look into. So I know what you're.
Oh my God! So
talking about.
yeah, I mean, I'm not big on fiction.
Yeah.
But I was talking to a friend he was a good friend of mine. He was down in Peru with his wife, and he said something to me. He showed me, say, "Hey, look at this book I've picked up in a library down here, Children of Light or something like that." Okay, so I'm looking it up, and Google redirected me to these books by a South American author who had a close encounter with a friendly extraterrestrial in California in 1985, which is, oddly enough, that's the year I started having contact in California.
Wow.
On the coast.
Wow.
So, okay, now I'm totally focused. I'm very curious. What is this? What is going on? So I'm reading through it, and it seems a little childish because it's a children's book. But as I read it, I realized, wait a minute, this guy, he really did have contact with benevolent extraterrestrials, and they told him or showed him how, look, nobody's going to believe this. So if you write it as a children's book, a lot more people will read it, and it's like planting seeds in their mind or heart. So what I learned from it is that this is not a civilized world we live on. Number one, that was a revelation, I guess. It's not a pleasant awakening, but okay, I understand, because it actually shows you in the books what civilized worlds look like. And don't feel bad, because we're not the only uncivilized or still uncivilized planet. The potential's there, and believe me, they're trying to help us, but we have to do the hard part. Okay, there's certain things they can't do for us. So it also said in there that the dark side, or that lower astral, I forget the exact terms he used, but it's universal. It's not just on this planet, which we can't see that naturally, but it explains that this is something that happens to all worlds. At some point, they will move past that limitation if their love and spirituality is at least equal with science and technology. When science and technology eclipses the spiritual, the whole thing collapses, and it has to start over again until it comes up like this. And if it goes to the point where spirituality and love is higher than this, then they can go off world. Then they become a truly civilized world. And it has to be like that. Otherwise, and I know this is bothering a lot of people that I'm even saying this, because we've been fed a bunch of lies. The current narrative is, there's a bunch of, hostile aliens. They're flying around, blowing up worlds, and, taking over planets, because that's what Hollywood's been showing us, right? And even Zachariah Sitchin and whatever, Donica, all these people have been filling our heads full of lies about how the process really works. Okay, so if it wasn't like that, if it wasn't like what I just described in those books, the AM, it's pronounced ami, like amigo, or mon ami. It means friend. That's all it means,
right?
Friend. They're actually more than that. They know that we're all family. Okay, that's another huge lie we've been told. Unfortunately, here a lot of us believe that somehow we're all different, we're all separate. That's not true. We're all family. We're all connected. All right. So if that wasn't true, what I just explained about the balancing point, then there would be a bunch of Star Wars kind of scenarios running around with, people killing each other and taking over, invading other planets and all that stuff. But apparently that's not the case. So then who are all these different UFOs that we see coming around? Well, some of them have been here for a very long time. The most recent time where we know there was that level of technology that collapsed on itself was Atlantis. And most people don't want to talk about it. They think it's just a joke. But I know it's real. I found some ancient ruins out in Malibu in 1985. And that's when I started having the close encounters with these craft and these entities. And so it's all connected. It's all connected. That's the other thing. The way that they brainwash us into thinking everything is separate, not just you and I or everybody. It's everything. They want us everything like, here's a separate discipline. Science is not connected to spirituality or religion. No. And it's divide and conquer, basically. It's builds firewalls in our consciousness and our hearts and minds. And ultimately, we are, again, this is part of becoming civilized. Right now, we're still, I know that's hard for people to believe. They say, we've got technology, so therefore we're civilized, right? Compared to somebody living in the jungle. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about technology does not equate with being civilized. You look around you, the way people are behaving right now. We've been given all these wonderful technologies, and so social media mostly is anti-social media. That's what it turned into. And it's used to surveil us and stuff. It make us sick with the different, these cell phone towers. If they were broadcasting a different range of frequencies, we would all live longer, healthier lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really not, this is not rocket science. It's a well-known fact that all our cells have, when they're healthy, they vibrate at a certain frequency. And if you broadcast a dissonant low frequency that's discord, they freak out. They break down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty obvious that this planet is not civilized. It is not living up to its full potential. But if we get past this next couple of years, and enough of us say, look, I choose to work with the light. I want this to become a civilized. I want to become part of the cosmic family again. I want to reunite with them. We are going to have so much help in rebuilding, rehabilitating the life support system on this planet, and reestablishing this connection with the human family here and beyond. I could tell you things, but it doesn't make sense. Okay, all the words that I would say are just pale in comparison to the actual experience.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. A million questions. I agree with you that Atlantis actually has more evidence for it than against it. So I'm not sure why people are still so opposed to thinking about it. Whatever you want to call it, it seems clear to me that there was a previous civilization of advanced abilities. And when you're talking about the vibration, and the frequencies being put out by the cell towers and how it could actually be helping us to be healthier and happier and have better lives, and instead it's the opposite. It reminds me of the ideas of people have talked about, both with things like, the pyramid, but also with just these structures when people are looking into Tartaria and looking at these ancient churches and saying, like, what if these were used to harness energy and create certain vibrations that were healing and harmonious? And what do you think about those things, that the ancient structures of various types could have been used for those types of abilities?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that mean that we were civilized then? Why did that fall apart?
We
just
close.
weren't enough. Okay.
We were close. And we didn't make it. And so it's like, the trajectory of a civilization is usually gradual, and then it peaks, and at that point it continues or it collapses. I think they call that an S curve in when I was studying this, and when I worked for Honda Research and Development. Yeah, like every product has an S curve. And so this is true for civilizations as well, unless they plug into the cosmos, and then it's just infinite. It really is. That's why the Ami books are so fascinating, because it actually demonstrates or gives you insight, a glimpse of what it's like to be on a civilized world, how they live. It's not like what Hollywood is showing us at all. So, but yeah, we were moving towards that at different periods in the past. And certain structures are more resonant to the cosmos. This is where the Force comes into play. Okay, they didn't explain this in Star Wars at all, because they didn't want us to know this. But they being whoever, the dark side, right?
Right.
All right, through Hollywood.
Right.
Oh, that's another. That's another book from South America that you might want to check out in my library. It's called Date with the Gods, written by Charles Silva, who's a South American, but he's also an American citizen and worked in Hollywood and stuff. Anyway, he wrote this book based on his contact with human extraterrestrials in Peru. Mm-hmm. He took Shirley MacLaine down there at one point, and he showed her around, and that's where Out on the Limb came from. Mm-hmm. But he published that in 1974, so he obviously, that's the same year that Star Wars came out. His manuscript was circulating through Hollywood at the studios, right? And so people knew this was going on, but that's ultimately where Lucas and others got the idea for this story, that they fictionalized something that's real. Unfortunately, they did, in my opinion, they did a terrible job, a disservice to humanity. Okay, it's one thing to entertain people, but if you're lying to them or misleading them about something so fundamental as the Force, I will direct people who are interested. Yes, go to my library, read Date with the Gods. But if you really want to just see what the Force looks like, go to the articles section of unicusmagazine.com, and then scroll down a little ways, and you'll see this one folder called the web, the cosmic web. Scientists only recently discovered this using instrumentation, that there is. So when we look at the stars, it's all dark, right? Except for points of light. Well, actually, it's a web of light that we can't see in this current form. We're basically blind to the rest of creation here. We really are.
We're like
We
those
only see,
fish at the bottom of the ocean.
yeah, yeah, it's bad. But there are spiritual or non-physical ways. Like this was part of my teaching, my experience. My first out-of-body experience was in the Great Pyramid because of the energy there. In the King's Chamber, I literally had what they call a out-of-body experience. I didn't know what that was. I was only 15.
Wow.
The next one was 10 years later when I was in the mountains of Malibu. And I had the same thing, and it was really, really intense. And that's where I had my first encounter with I'd call it angelic being.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they've been guiding me ever since. That's one of the reasons I know a lot of this stuff is because they've been helping me along the way. But the bottom line is they also showed me when I was up in the mountains, I actually spent years up there, off and on, going up there and getting instructions and having contact. They showed me this web of light that we're all connected to. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. But I didn't really have any context for it. It just kind of was shocking and beautiful and mysterious. I couldn't quite understand it fully until years later when scientists discovered it again, accidentally, whatever, with these machines. They said, oh, wait a minute, everything is connected through these filaments of light.
I just
and they were
saw
only
this today.
What's that?
I just saw this today, so it's just weirdly synchronous that you're bringing it up.
Somewhere else or on my website?
Somewhere else. Yeah, it was on. I think it was Nassim Haramein shared something about it today.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know Nassim. He's a good guy.
He seems good.
All right. Yeah, resonance. He's all about resonance. Yeah, and that's sustainable. And everything about the cosmic web is based on resonance, and more importantly, consciousness is flowing. It's vibratory, okay, but it's sustainable because it is resonant, and so all of creation. When we look at the dark sky, we don't see it, but if you look at my website at the article section, you'll see multiple images that I put out there, including a video. It's a simulation. It's a what do you call a virtual representation of what it really looks like. How all the stars are connected to this fabric, this web of living, intelligent energy, this light. Okay, and so when we plug into that, it's our potential just is astronomical. It just shoots up. It's infinite. It's like taking your computer right now, unplug it from the internet. Well, it can do a lot of stuff, but when you plug it into the internet, it's connected to billions of other computers, and that's the same is true for our soul. By itself, it's pretty amazing, especially if you take good care of it and you nurture it. And all right, you plug into the cosmic web of light. Now you're connected to there's probably no number to this, but let's just say an infinite number of intelligent souls out there that we're all related to, and they're wanting to share with you. Whoa! I mean, now there is no limit on that. And that's our true potential. And honestly, that's what the dark side is deathly afraid of. They don't want us to wake up and do that, make that reconnect with that source, the force of creation, because then they're just out of the picture. They know it's gradually happening. And that's why they're acting so desperately. Unintended consequence, though, is the more desperate they act, the more they're waking people up here now, right now, to see through the lies, because it's really this simple: resonance versus dissonance. One is the web of light. The other one is the web of lies. Which one do you want to work with? To me, it seems really obvious, but one of the things that I was warned about in 2013 when I asked my extended family, what's the plan here? How do we resolve this? They said that during this process, during this 10-year window, as people are waking up, don't be alarmed if some people knowingly choose to go to continue down the path of the dark side. You have to understand that that's their choice. It's not your choice. You may not agree with it. It may make you feel heartsick because you will know these people. You will actually feel very horrible for them. But they were like preparing me for the fact that that's how it's going to come to pass. They've seen it happen on so many other worlds. It's like this isn't unique. This process is powerful. It's painful. It's like giving birth, but it's at the same time it's beautiful. It's like it's unleashing all of our potential. And some souls aren't ready for it. They just aren't.
So we don't bring all of the like dark denseness up with us as we kind of all move up. It's some people like literally get left behind.
Well, they'll choose it. It's not like they're.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, you don't qualify. No, it's a choice that they make based on full disclosure. I'm not talking about UFOs. I'm talking about
Yeah.
all of it, all the pedophilia, all the other crimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there's a laundry list of stuff that the dark side has done here,
Yeah. It's hard to take.
including all the radiation. This one of the reasons they've increased the level of artificial microwave radiation on this planet since the World War II in 1940s is so that as the cosmic web of light, as it increases the energy, the natural divine energy, the resonant energy that comes to the planet anyway, they want to like cancel out that signal by overriding it with this dissonant darkness. And that's all it is. I mean, it's really heinous, honestly. I mean, again, the word's kind of pale. Yeah, I could say it's evil, but that's a loaded term.
Yeah.
It's I'll tell you what, here's really from their perspective, as far as I can tell, they feel it threatens their survival. And on some level that's true, because they actually, not only do they feed off of whenever they provoke us to become paranoid and do these crazy things, they feed off of that energy. They actually, any kind of dissonance that we generate emotionally, they cannot feed off it. And because they have no creativity of their own, this is why they need us to make stuff that they can't, or do things that they can't on their behalf, under false pretenses. Naturally,
Right.
They never tell us this, like, oh, you really need atomic weapons and you really need microwave radiation, because you need to communicate. I was like, okay. So anyway, they're good at tricking some of us some of the time, but they can't fool everybody all the time, especially now that this increased amplification of natural divine resonant energy coming from the web of light. It's not a small thing. All right. You got to understand too, that is our divine birthright.
Yeah.
This is our home, not just the planet. The cosmic web of light is throughout this entire universe and probably beyond. I can't prove that. In the beyond stuff, I can't say anything about. All I know is for sure what I was shown. Scientists only see it on the big scale with their machines. But what I was shown is it continues down into the subatomic level. Why wouldn't it? It's the fabric of creation. Why wouldn't you want to connect with that? So it takes effort. It does take effort, but it's not impossible. It doesn't cost you anything. You just have to focus on doing it. So you probably heard me say this, and I feel like a broken record, but we can increase our levels of resonance very simply by being calm and kind, creative, courageous, which sounds very simple, but it isn't. It's very challenging, especially the more crap they're throwing at us, all these different obstacles, right? To distract us from doing this thing. Some people like to stand on the earth, I got to go earthing or grounding, whatever.
Yeah.
The only reason that's working is because it helps us to physically connect our body to the earth, which is connected to the web of light.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, if you can't physically put your feet on the ground, you can still connect through your heart.
Yes.
Christians talk about this thing about the kingdom of heaven is within. They're leaving something out, but they're leaving a little bit something really important. The full statement should be the kingdom of heaven, the doorway to the kingdom of heaven is within your heart. Yes. Okay? Because that's where the most electricity is in our body. It's not our brains, it's the heart. Heart Math Institute has proven this. The field of energy around us is coming from in here. And if you've ever seen on my website, I've got a graphic of a soul, what a soul looks like. It actually is like a luminous egg, and there's energy radiating from the center out like this. It's like pulsing, and it's got these rays of light coming off. Each one of those rays of light that comes out of us is connecting to the web of light. So we can see all of this. If you have to see, if you really want to see it, it's so-called imagination in the third eye. You can see it perfectly. And especially if you ask for help, and I don't mean this in religious terms, if you realize that our extended family really wants to help us do these things, and you ask politely, and you show some appreciation, respect and appreciation, of course they're going to help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty wild times we live in.
It's pretty awesome. I like how you're making this accessible to people, because it is, I think, something that is available to everyone. And I think
of course
sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that people who have had experiences are somehow special. And maybe they are, but in reality, they're just the same. And everybody has these skills and abilities and chances and opportunities. And like you were saying earlier, it's actually completely about equality. Like, we all have the same choices and the same abilities. And some of us have, things to get through. And so that can be different, but this is not blocked off to anyone.
No, I mean, look, I've spent a lot of time cultivating plants, gardening, whatever you call it, landscaping. If you put seeds in the ground, or you germinate them, they don't all grow at the same rate. Right? And they certainly won't do well if they're not in the right conditions, like sunlight and fertilizer, water, and all that stuff. And some love. They do respond to that. Plants are not stupid.
Yeah.
They're very intelligent, and they actually communicate to each other.
I talk to my plants all the time, and I play them music, and they're super happy.
Yeah, and they look healthy.
Yes.
Because, yes, happiness and health is actually related. I'll tell you this much. I don't know how much time we have left here.
We can go. Okay. Yeah, how much time do you have?
Whatever you want. Okay,
we'll just keep going.
A lot of things here I'd like to communicate, which is the DNA is a spiral helix, right? This is again about connectivity. We know that DNA actually emits light and it absorbs light. All DNA strands do that. However, when we are stressed out and we are going into a very negative or dissonant emotions, the DNA strands constrict, they get tight, and therefore the light does not conduct.
Wow.
As well as when you're in a positive emotional resonant state, it opens up. Now, most people don't know this, but and that's not my opinion. That's a scientific fact.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Well, but see, look, these are very simple truths, but they have a profound impact on our well-being, physically, spiritually, and intellectually.
Yeah.
Because everything is based on consciousness, and these waveforms. In fact, all platonic solids that we see right now, hey, this looks solid, right? Nope, it isn't. When you look at it, when you really go down to a certain level, it's wave patterns. The science of studying these patterns is called cymatics, cymatics, for people who've never heard of it before. Google it. It'll blow your mind. They can literally take a speaker, right, and put a piece of paper over it, sprinkle some sand on it, and broadcast play a certain frequency, and you get a pattern, and it'll be whatever solid it represents a solid, the same pattern you find in something that's solid. So, and then you can tune it up, and you see different patterns making, right? And so everything is just that. Not to trivialize it, but it's just to better put it into context. That our emotional state is wave patterning, and we are responsible for that.
Yes.
Unless we abdicate and say, okay, sure, let them switch on 5G, let them freak me out today. I'll just go with the herd, act like a psycho. But it's a choice, and this is the thing again. What's amazing about us is that a lot of times the crisis actually brings out the best and the worst.
Yeah.
In us. And that's what I'm seeing happening.
I agree. Yeah, and I've even struggled myself recently sometimes, with this whole coronavirus crap that's going on. And
Yeah.
every once in a while, for the most part, I've been able to be like, I know what I am. I know I'm a soul. I know that this is just a challenge that we're facing. And I know my main job is to keep like emitting that light out and keeping calm and, you know, remember like no matter what happens, that's my only real power. But every once in a while, I'll have a day where it's like really hard to remember and do that. And I'm like, is this 5G? Like, is something like messing
Yeah.
with me? Because it's, maybe it's just normal because I'm a human and it's just hard some days. Or maybe
Sure.
there's something else, you know, conflicting
Well, hey,
with
look,
what I'm
here's the
doing.
other thing. The more resonant you are, especially if you're vocal about it, like what you're doing with the show, naturally you're going to be a target because you're considered a threat by the
Yeah.
dark side.
They like
Whether
to fuck
I
with
know
me.
that's not your intention,
Yeah,
but that's how they perceive us.
I know.
That's what I've learned. So, but the thing is, look, we are all in this together, and
Yeah.
we have a huge responsibility towards for others.
Yes.
I'm not responsible for your thoughts and deeds, but if I'm in a crappy mood, if I'm full of this dark energy and I project it towards others, and then so on, it's contagious, and
Yeah.
you clearly that's part of what this so-called pandemic.
Plandemic.
It's a panic.
Yeah.
They want us to panic, and it's and it for some people they buy into it, etc. For those of others of us, though, let me tell you something. Happiness is contagious as well. Healthiness is something that a lot of people are trying to finally realize now. Oh, wait a minute. The medical system really isn't designed to help me boost my immune system.
No.
And it's becoming so transparent right now that I've never seen so many people talking about supplements
Yeah.
and exercise and how to meditate
And
and
sunlight.
anything they can do, everything they can think of. See, so there's a positive side. There's
That's
a
true.
benefit. There's
That's
a
a good
benefit to
point.
all this.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's this side that I've seen where, at least where I'm at, when I go out and around now and I see people, it's like everyone's trying to make eye contact and smile. It's like we're trying to remind each other, like, hey, we're still people, and it's still okay. We're still
Yeah,
here. We're still
social
okay.
distancing doesn't mean being
Rude.
like, yeah, I mean, because some people, I swear to God, it's weird. It's like 6 feet apart doesn't mean you can't say hello
Yeah.
or even look at somebody.
And smile.
So I've been actually forcing myself to do that. I at first I was kind of upset that people seem like they're just like, don't even look at me.
Because they're scared that when they make
Yeah,
eye
they're
contact,
scared
they're
I'll
going
get
to
that.
feel a real
Somehow,
emotion.
yeah, it doesn't transfer through eye contact. But anyway, so I'm forcing myself. When I see somebody, I'll make sure that they're looking and say hello.
Hi.
It's amazing actually. Like I said, I already knew this was coming,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure because you know how we can interpret things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overlay our own imagination on top of basic information, even if
Right.
it's coming from off world or whatever.
Totally.
But they were so right on when I asked them, you know, what is the problem here? They showed me. It took a little while. They kind of step by step. It took about a month, and they were very gradual, very gentle, because it was shocking, and I was freaked out. And
Yeah.
ultimately, you know, it helped a lot of people because this isn't about me. Okay,
No.
we're all in this together. I'm just here to help my family. All of us, we're
Okay.
family. So, but when I asked for what is the solution, and it came like, whoa, you know, it's like, really? That's the plan? I mean, that didn't. It's like, all right, that seems kind of
Not effective.
weird.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand. Well, I didn't know if it was real.
Yeah.
It's not illogical. It just I didn't understand. I didn't have the rest of the thing. It was just this initial shock of seeing that literally in my mind's eye and actually feeling the emotions of it. It was pretty overwhelming, and I thought, oh, I kind of tried to dismiss it. But as time went on, I actually found references to this, like, you know, scientific references are like, yeah, these waves of energy are hitting the planet. We don't even know where they're coming from, you know. And then I found other people who had said this. I mean, like 90 years ago, some Indian guru guy had said, yeah, these waves of energy are gonna, you know. So okay, so the time as we know it is very limited. The construct that we live in, this 24-hour period, it's irrelevant to the rest of creation. Because that was one of my big complaints is like, why aren't they doing something? And eventually I came to understand that their perception of time is completely different.
Hmm.
They look at things overall. I mean, again, because partially because we don't live very long in a physical sense, right? So we tend to measure things based on our lifetime or a year or whatever, whereas they're looking at things on an infinite scale.
Hmm.
And once I saw that, I thought, oh, okay, they figure they have all the time. I mean, within reason, they can see the big picture. They have a plan. They're executing. There's a whole bunch of people or souls or whatever you want to call it. It's not just like, Lord Almighty save us. No, it's like all the all the angels in heaven or God or whatever you want to call it are concerned about not only this world but all the worlds that are uncivilized. And in fact, all the civilized worlds, you could say those are the truly angelic beings who feel it's incumbent upon them once they reach a certain level. They don't just go, well, we're done.
We're
Hey, we're good.
good. Yeah.
Screw you guys. Tough luck. Uh, no, no, they for sure will do everything that they can within certain limitations. Again, because of free will,
Hmm.
they are doing stuff, and that's actually mentioned in the Ami books as well. I mean, some of it is I don't know. It seems really far out, really really far out, and maybe he's just taking artistic license there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just think that truth is far more interesting than fiction.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to fictionalize things in order to be able to tell the story,
Yes.
because people aren't ready. They can't handle it as they're not ready for it to be real because all of the
Absolutely.
implications that follow, right?
Yes.
It threatens their paradigm. It's like this is a mental cage and you want to let the bird out and the bird's like, no, thank you. This is my reality. Okay. Shut the door, please.
Right.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go out. I feel unsafe doing that. Yeah.
I even think there's, a lot of people will say, like, I wish that I could have this experience or that experience or these experiences. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I experience every time I've had any type of experience, whether it's any type of experience that's abnormal, they're
Yeah.
all scary. They're all terrifying in some way. And they all push me to my boundary, like, limit in some way. And so,
Yeah.
and I would not wish that I didn't. I'm always glad that I've had them. But I just always think people I think part of the reason people aren't necessarily having them is, for one, they're not really like open to it or perceptive to it, or wanting it, or whatever that combination is that makes it happen. But I also think like maybe you're like not quite ready because it's actually like pretty hard. I think it's
Yeah.
hard.
And even if you think you're ready, yes,
Yeah.
it is. It's shocking to say the least. But that's how we grow. I mean, that's how we get beyond the barriers breaking down. I mean, even just lifting weights, you're literally tearing the muscles down
Exactly.
and so they can rebuild. And so in a way, that's a perfect analogy. What's happening, society is breaking down
Hmm.
to be rebuilt. The question is, do we rebuild? What is the majority going to decide?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people talk about ascension and stuff. There's nothing wrong with this planet at all. It's a beautiful planet. It has,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. It could be devastated. The whole life support system could be devastated. But if we allow it to give it time, it will always regenerate. You know why? Because the web of light is all about, it not only creates worlds, it sustains them.
Hmm.
All of that life is connected. So, um, you know, like what you were talking about, communicating with the plants,
Yeah.
they're all connected. They've never been disconnected from the web of light. They can't. We can. We
Hmm.
can make a choice to be like, focused on something other than the web of light and all the consciousness that we can connect with. Whereas they're just hardwired that way. They can't go into the web of lies. I mean, we can kind of force them to with GMO.
Hmm.
We've sort of tried to distort it. I mean, the dark side always does that. They always try to manipulate. But you see, that's not really creating anything, is it?
No.
It's manipulating, or what do they call it? Distorting something that
It's
already
like
exists.
it's like reducing it,
In
in
a
a
way,
way.
in a way, it is. But it's always about trying to control, for the wrong reasons too. Supposedly, oh, we'll make more money. Well, okay, but you're making people sick too, including yourself. I mean, why would you do that exactly?
Just a
You know?
complete misunderstanding of everything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
everything that
yeah,
you
yeah.
are, everything
Well,
that
okay,
this
so
is.
here's the other thing. There really aren't any victims. I know a lot of people, the current culture, uh,
Loves victims.
well, yeah, they're supposedly honoring them, the virtue signaling and all this craziness. Um, it that is a real mistake that people can make if they want to, again, because free will's at play. So if you want to see yourself that way, you've basically chosen to disenfranchise yourself
Yeah.
from creation. Because the truth is, everybody survives challenges and in so doing becomes stronger,
Yes.
right?
100% of humans.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's but see, again, this is a really stark choice. There isn't really kind of a lot of gray area in that, you know. And you can see the people that victims are weak. People that see themselves as victims are really very weak, and they don't want to take any responsibility for anything. And they play the blame game, and but this is a very bad choice for them. Whereas people who see themselves as survivors not only are stronger, but I've never met somebody who isn't a survivor that didn't want to help somebody else do the same thing,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And that's reciprocity. That shows true resonance. It's sustainable. That's what family does. We help each other grow stronger. Yeah, and I don't know. This is see, like when I first started doing this publicly back in 1990. I already had a lot of experience, but I didn't know how to interface with the public. All I knew is, I mean, I'd done it as a security guard, but not like this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was really a tough uphill climb. I got made fun of a lot by people in Hollywood,
I bet.
but that's okay. I mean, I don't really care.
No. And they're
Because,
they're like
yeah,
the worst. Not all of them.
well, yeah, I know, but I know who they work for. It's fine. I get that. But for a long time, I was often wondering, because I grew up in Malibu. It's like I was surrounded by people in the industry, and I thought, well, yeah, I could probably do that. But every time I would talk to somebody in that field, it was just like oil and water. There was no way I could mix with them, and I didn't understand it until I really started going into public speaking or writing for editing Unicus magazine, and which led to a lot of public appearances on radio and television. And I started to realize that a lot of people were still completely asleep and they didn't want the information. But there was always a few that we were reaching around the world. It was slow. It was very slow. We actually didn't have the internet. So we had to use whatever media was available to us. And we would actually get physical letters in the mail, and we'd write back to them wherever they were writing to us. Well, the reason I'm mentioning it is because now, even though I do shows like this, and I have my own show, and I've got a website, unicusmagazine.com, it's the emails that I get from people from around the world that are they're either asking questions or they're making comments, whatever. We're making a connection there. That's where the magic happens for me.
Yes.
I feel, because it gives me the opportunity to really interface with somebody on a more intimate level.
And
A
it's
lot
people
of,
who
and
have chosen it and want it.
yes,
Yeah.
they're ready for it, and whatever it is, whatever the missing piece of their puzzle is, if I have it, hey, you're welcome to it. Here you go.
Right.
Hope it helps. And when I hear back from this, I go, when I stumbled across you on YouTube or whatever, I thought it was pretty crazy what you were saying. But the more I listened, the more I thought about it, and the more I actually started to dig on my own into this information. And they said, it helped raise me to a different level, really helped expand my consciousness, and my spirituality and stuff. And so, like, I got a most beautiful letter today from some retired Army guy, and it just like, I don't know. I don't need thanks. I really, that's no big, that's not why I do it. But when I get feedback like that, positive feedback, and to know that I really am helping people to help themselves move to the next level, okay, then it's all worth it. I don't care how many people make fun of me. It doesn't. I'm just saying, it was worth the effort to get to where we're at now, because I know that it's going to help a lot of people go even higher,
Yes.
to a much higher realm of consciousness and existence.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important too for people listening who are thinking, about how they're possibly reaching out and affecting people in similar ways to realize that you can do this in a variety of ways, that you don't have to have a show or have a magazine. Like those things are cool and you can do that too, if that's what calls you. But like whatever it is you're doing, you can be doing that through that method, whatever that is. If you have like a store that you own, or whatever you do, you can do this sort of thing where you're trying to connect with people and sort of offer them whatever you have, or like drop seeds as you go, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Like I said, the love, resonance, whatever you want to call it, is kindness is contagious. And so, and I know, especially now, because people are freaking out, not everybody, but it's even more important during a time like this to be calm and kind.
Yes.
Or creative and courageous is important. It really is. Because if fear is the first step down the slippery slope of the dark side, and they know that they want us to panic.
It's powerful.
Right. So it's not impossible, but sometimes it feels like it. They want us to lose hope. I know that for a fact, because they've tried to do that to me a few times. In fact, one time it was so powerful, it almost took me off the playing field entirely. And if it wasn't for the intervention of the benevolent ones, I wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you. But that was the other thing. Fascinating. I've kind of always known this, but it was brought to my attention again in the book, The Astral City. Suicide is not an option.
No, I was just talking about this.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is really very important for everybody who listens to this, and please explain this to others that you love.
Yes.
Suicide is a guaranteed ticket to the lower astral or hell. Okay. And it's not punishment. It's a huge mistake. And our society, especially religious organizations, have failed entirely to explain that properly to their congregation. And to me, that's criminal. We should know this, all right? Because the suicides are on the increase. It was one of the things that in fact, that was the prime factor that woke me up when I was a young man, 24 years old, working security, head of security Malibu. Was a boy, almost, you could say it was accidental, but whatever. He almost killed himself while I was there. And I helped save his life. Now, I ended up saving 3 people's lives in a very short time, which I thought was really weird. It's like, why is this happening? But in retrospect, I realized that this is far too common, and that Malibu has a huge rate of suicide. I mean, over a dozen friends of mine. A dozen people that I grew up with in a small town.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and yeah, that was a huge wake-up call. Now I'm seeing it's on the United States.
Yeah.
And whatever you're feeling that would compel you or impel you to take your physical life, you need to stop and think about the consequences, because nobody is explaining it properly. Or I wouldn't say nobody. Not enough people, especially in positions of authority or responsibility, like even shows like this. Honestly, you never know who's listening.
Yeah.
And if they're on the edge, if they're losing hope, and they think that'll get me to a better place, I'm here to tell you that is the biggest mistake you could possibly ever make.
Yes.
Your soul is to kill your physical body. We are not, that is not our, we don't have that right. We didn't make this physical body. We don't have the right to do that. If we do that, though, the consequences are extreme. We will suffer because we have just now chosen to put ourselves into the lower astral realm to be surrounded by other souls that are hopeless and they're lost. And that old saying about misery loves company, you don't want to go there.
Hmm.
If you think your life sucks now, it's going to be 1,000 times worse for you when you leave your body and end up there. I mean, seriously, this is huge, and it's one of the reasons that I came back onto the air. I started this after my first appearance on Coast to Coast when I was promoting my first book, which is about the hidden history of UFOs in Washington, D.C. A book I didn't intend to write. Okay, it just came out of an article. Anyway, I started coming on the air to explain to people these truths as I understand them, because I know I can help people. I want to help people, and I am helping people, souls that are here that are struggling and oftentimes go astray, and specifically suicide. And I wanted to know what was the cause of that. And a lot of times it's because they're hearing voices. They don't know where they're from.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know how to get them to stop tormenting them.
Yes.
Okay, so suicide isn't going to stop that. It's only going to make it worse. And I really can't stress that enough. And I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, because I know a lot of people that are like, oh my God, here he goes again talking about that. But if other people were talking about it more, I would never have to mention it again. In fact, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But the problem is I don't hear people talking about that in that manner, right?
Right.
So if you hear what I'm saying and you feel like there's some merit to it or truth behind it, please help other people that you love understand so they don't make that mistake. Please.
Yes. And I think that's another thing that we can all do wherever we're at, whatever we're doing in life, is be available to people who are struggling and suffering through things like this. Because I think a lot of times when people are feeling that hopeless, another way that they feel is they don't have anyone who could possibly understand or could possibly want to like put up with their shit or whatever they're thinking, you know? And in reality, it's like I try to tell as many people as possible, like, I actually am here for whoever. Like, if you feel like you're there, whatever you are, even if you feel like we're not close, I'm down to talk about anything and be there. And if that often is like that can keep someone feeling connected and like maybe they have something to hope for or whatever, then that's a really, really minor thing that everyone can do. It's a major thing, but it's like easy for you to give that, you know?
Well, the other thing is a lot of people
glad you did.
A lot of people who are in depression feel like they're the only one, and that's not true.
Yeah.
True. We all suffer to various degrees. We're all targeted to various degrees by the dark side.
Yes.
But
well, and that's when you were saying, you know, they target people. I feel like have you ever had talked with Jerry Marzinski or Sherry Sweeney?
I've had them on the show recently for the new book.
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
Jerry reached out to me when he was first starting that project.
Yeah.
Because he heard me on Coast to Coast talking about these demons.
Ah.
And that, which again, I didn't understand it and beyond.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's how we met.
Cool.
And as soon as I talked to them, I was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll help you. And then boy, I was targeted so badly. After about 2 weeks of being tormented by these entities, I can't do this. They are just driving me insane. And sure enough, when I told them, sorry, I can't help you write the book, but I will have you on my show. I'll tell people about you. And then it got better. And obviously, Sherry, the book is fantastic. It really helps a lot of people.
Yes. Well, and that, when people are, I've talked about with both of them and now with you, that when people are feeling these, it's like you don't necessarily have to hear these voices for these entities to be affecting you. It can be a purely emotional. So, when I'm saying, like, I wonder if this is 5G that's making me sort of have these days where I'm sort of losing it, it's like, well, probably it could be that, but it could also very easily be these entities or both. I mean, they probably work in tandem.
Yes, of course it is. And yes, they're always surveilling us. They know exactly what we're thinking and feeling all the time. There is no such thing as privacy, I'm sorry to tell you.
No.
That's an illusion.
And it's best.
Be careful what you think.
Right. It's best to just be honest then all the time, because at some level of your being, you're being honest all the time anyway, with everyone and everything. Yeah.
I mean, it's foolish to think that you can hide anything from the universe or the dark side. They have the ability to monitor us.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so that's why it's really easy for them to manipulate us, because we've been basically convinced by them that they don't exist. And, right. Mm-hmm. So but this is all being revealed. And so the thing about it is that don't take it personal. This is happening to everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody admits it, but I know everybody's being affected by it. And the thing about hope, though, is that when we lose hope, it's like you kind of like lost your grip. If you're like walking up a hill and you start slipping, it's just like we don't have the traction anymore to stay in the game. And they want to do that to us when they feel like threatened, or they just want to feast off of that fear and the torment.
Mm.
But we don't have to give in to that. So for me, the hope, like I said, was a divine intervention.
Mm.
What they said to me was, if you decide to stay here, we'll do everything we can to help. And once I knew that, because I actually was feeling that's what broke me at that moment, was the way that I was being targeted. I thought, well, who the hell can I call about this? This was back in 1990. No, excuse me. Yeah, it was before I had the major breakthrough.
Mm.
Oh, let me explain.
Mm-hmm.
So I was being targeted, and I knew I was being targeted, but I didn't know who to call for help.
Yeah.
And I basically lost all hope, and I gave up. I just didn't want to be here anymore. I thought I was going to end it. Right. Yeah. And the night before I was going to do that, I had a contact with a beautiful entity that said to me, if you decide to stay, we will do everything we can to help you. And that gave me, it restored my hope in the future. Because like I said, I mean, really, I didn't know who, because first of all, nobody was acting like alien abductions were real, or androids were real, or any of these other UFOs were still considered wacko. And I was experiencing all of that stuff.
Yep.
More importantly, I figured if nobody's dealing with it, there's no hope for the future.
Right.
It wasn't just about me, even though I didn't like what they were. I knew that they had invaded the illusion of privacy was gone. That they proved it to me that particular time for the second time, and I was really bugged by it. It wasn't just a violation. I felt like, what's the purpose of all this stuff?
Yeah.
Why am I even here? What is this stupid world about? But when I was approached by this divine being, and she said, we're going to do that. If you because again, they honor our free will, unlike the dark side, which obviously try to manipulate us all the time. She said, this thing about I don't know it was still early on. So that restored my hope. And I was actually very ill at the time too, with a respiratory problem. Like a lot of people are freaking out on that. It's scary when you can't breathe right.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that was amazing about it was she had some sort of crystal in her hand that I'd never seen before at the time. She said she must have known that I once she said that, I'm like, oh, really? Okay, well, if you're going to help, then yeah, I'll stick around, So she held out her hand. There's this amazing looking crystal. She said, place your hand on the crystal. I didn't know I love crystals. I'm like, oh, sure. As soon as I touched it, whoa, it was like jump starting a car.
Wow.
Yeah. And she didn't warn me. I didn't know what was going on. Honestly, it was just like, whoa, what is this? And it just downloaded all kinds of stuff into me. And when I woke up into this realm again, I felt like, okay, I'm going to stick around. And my health started to improve tremendously from that moment forward. And not long after that, I met my current wife, and she was already started Unicus. That's how we met, actually. She just got back from Peru, having her experiences down there, much like the experiences I was having here in California. Wow. So, yeah. And so this thing about them, we will help you. That wasn't just lip service. They really meant it. They really, really meant it. But I still had to participate. It wasn't like, hey, you just sit back and watch. We're going to help. No, they're going to help me to help others.
Yeah.
That's really that's what they meant by that. If you stick around, we're going to help you to help others to do this thing. So the magazine was just a vehicle. It's not, or the website. It isn't really about, it's just a way to communicate these higher truths to people at a time when, we're basically waking up.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild stuff.
It's pretty amazing. It gives me a lot of hope because I've had some similar types of experiences, and I feel, even though I was saying easier earlier that like maybe not everyone's ready for it, or maybe they're a little bit scary, a little bit hard. I feel like one of the things I'm most grateful for in having had some experiences is that I have like an unshakable faith. Like I know that this is what I am and that this is what I'm here for, and so I have no doubt about that. There's a lot of things I question in life, and that's not one of them. And so that I think is a really powerful tool and motivator. It's like I don't want to face dark and hard times, but I know that I can, because I know that in the end it's like that's nothing. That's like a drop in the bucket.
Well, and you're not facing it alone either. That's the other thing I realized. Like I said, when they said, we will help you, I'm like, okay, well then great, because you look pretty awesome. It's like, I don't mean beautiful in that sense. It was like this glow and the energy, whatever that thing was, that they did to me, or she did it wasn't just a crystal. That was just a transfer tool, probably interdimensional. I mean, whatever. It was just a huge boost. And so I took all of that and started to share it with other people. And like I said, it didn't go over so well in the beginning. People, honestly, some people are saying, you got to stop talking to me. I'm hearing bells and stuff going off in my head, and just stop.
I just can't take it. Yeah.
No, I don't know what that means. I don't know where the bells. I didn't hear any bells.
Yeah.
but this person, I remember, a really nice guy, very smart guy, but he was just. It's not that he didn't want to. He was. I think it was like it was starting to make sense to him, and with these entities where they can do some.
They're like
crazy,
yelling. They're like, "Hey, listen to this!"
They were using like cowbells or something from another dimension. Anyway, ultimately, this is all going to pass, and look, even if it all collapses for some reason, if we don't reach that critical point, the tipping point where we go to becoming civilized in a resonance. It'll reset all over again, because this is the thing about divine mercy. It's real. And creation is always looking after itself. It's like, it doesn't, like I said, the thing about the dark side, I mean, I really thought that was just a stupid mistake, but apparently it's built in for a reason. It actually serves a purpose. And what I also found was pretty amazing is that my understanding is it's an artificial intelligence put in by the creator as a like in a circuit breaker. I mean, circuit breaker is built into an electrical system so it doesn't overload or explode. All right. So that is the circuit breaker. The dark side is actually a circuit breaker. Or in a motor, in your car, you realize you can push out the gas and stuff, but it's only going to go to a certain RPM, and it stops. You ever wonder why? It's called a governor.
Oh, yeah.
Not the governor of the state. It prevents the motor from going so high that it literally blows itself up. So this is something that isn't hypothetical. It's pretty logical and factual, and a lot of things. The words, the language has got to evolve. Okay, because we call it supernatural. It's not. It's just super normal or extra. I don't know. I think it's awesome. The more I understand it, the more optimistic and positive that I am that this is exactly what we're supposed to do. If we want to, we're supposed to grow in that direction. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. I see our souls look like seeds. They're oval shaped. And they want to be connected to creation so they can grow. So we're in this garden, and we're the seeds of light in the web of light. Unfortunately, there's also weeds growing in the garden that are inhibiting our growth. So it's like ultimately we a lot of this is on us, right? But you got to understand that there are others who are tending the garden as well. We're not in this alone. That's the other crazy thing that another lie. We've never been alone. We're never going to be alone. Okay, yeah, we don't have privacy, but is that so bad? If you're working with divine beings, I think you might actually enjoy the fact that they're keeping an eye on you, not spying on us,
Right.
but just like, parents, you watch your kids, you don't want them to get into trouble. And so in that regard, I think we're all blessed.
I agree. Yeah, I've had the same issues with the privacy thing, but I agree in the end as well. And if we're going to be connected to anything, really, we're going to want transparency from what we're connected to, and we're going to want to give transparency back to it, I think, and it makes sense to me. But I want to go
Yeah.
back
Go ahead.
before we have to sort of shut things down eventually.
Yeah.
But you brought up 2022, which is interesting
Yeah.
because I also had an experience a long time ago, and 2021 was the end of like something, and so
Huh.
2022 would then maybe tie in with that. And then I also had an experience where I don't remember if they brought up 2022 because I took me a minute to figure out what was even happening, and so I mostly caught the end of this experience rather than the beginning. I was just confused at first, but Sai Baba, which is I guess a spiritual leader in India.
Yeah, he's one of them.
Okay, he came into someone's, like, I saw a light come into the room and drop into someone's head, and they started
Wow.
talking as him. And that's why
Wow.
it took me a minute to figure out what was going on, because I was like, what the fuck is this light that just, did anybody see this light just went into this guy's head? Like, it freaked me out. I was like looking around and no one, like, I don't know if no
Yeah.
one cared or no one saw it or what, but all of a sudden Sai Baba was talking to the room. And so it took me a minute to catch on, but basically he said, that everything is, we're going into this time of turmoil and things are going to seem crazy and they're going to seem dark and they're going to seem terrifying, and
Yeah.
and you might get caught up in that, but just to remember and like have this faith, because you know that in the end, everything ends up as it should be and you're going to be okay and everything's going to be fine. And he was saying, I'll always be with you and we'll always be with you. And he said 2033 was like the end of that time. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. What year was that message given?
Last year. Or
Last year.
a year and a half ago, maybe a year. It was either last year or the year before. I have it written down somewhere at the date, but I don't. I'm bad with time.
Okay. I think we're kind of getting ahead of the curve here.
Oh.
But by 2023, everybody's going to have to make their decision. If enough of us decide that we want the planet to become peaceful and loving and civilized, about another 10 years from that would be, what did you say?
2033.
Yes. That would be the 10-year, sort of like after the war, when World War II, when they repel Europe. Yeah, it's going to be that. It's going to be the restoration period. About 10 years. They'd love to work in tens. I don't know why, but yeah, it would take about 10 years. And I mean, to work miracles, by the way. Literally put everything back in the way in divine order. Clean up all the oceans, all the water on the planet, I should say, the soil, put the radioactive things back onto the soil where they originally belong. They serve a purpose there. It's almost unimaginable for us to talk about that right now. What could be, like I said, and it's not just us doing it. We would get a lot of assistance to do that 10-year plan of restoring the planet to health and ourselves in the process. And once that is done, then the door is open for us some of us to start going off world and other civilized beings walking among us from other worlds, because it's not safe for them here.
Yeah, I can
It just
imagine.
is not. It is not. I know this thing, a lot of people don't get that, but that was made very clear to me that they know they're not welcome here. And why would you go to, I mean, come on, it's like, what, like, would you go to a war zone right now? No, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I can
yeah.
imagine some places on Earth where I could see a lot of people suffering and soul suffering, but I still wouldn't go there because it wouldn't be safe for me.
No. Yeah, why would you forfeit your life just to try and help some other people there? I mean, it's like it doesn't serve a good purpose. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, this is okay. So it's like a five-dimensional chess. A lot of what's going on here, it's very difficult for us to see because we're literally on the flat plane. We can't see the higher levels. We don't get a full perspective of all the different pieces that are in play. But I, I'm just absolutely amazed. Honestly, there isn't a day that goes by. And, excuse me. The other thing I would have to recommend before we leave here is to be grateful.
Hmm.
It's really important because the work that's going on behind the scenes, like when people pray, they typically are asking for stuff. I don't. I always just am giving thanks every day, in the morning and the night. I always give thanks for all the assistance, seen and unseen, because I know it's happening. And I think it's rude if someone or some group of people, souls, are helping you and you don't ever say thank you.
Yeah.
That would be kind of rude. So, and it doesn't mean they'll stop, but if you really want to connect with them and increase that or just improve the relationship, it's what it is. It's a relationship. If you never said thank you to somebody, even if they're our family, come on.
Yeah.
That's not polite. It's not civilized. So it's a minor point, but I want people to kind of think about that.
I think it's an important point though too, because again, it's something that people can actually do. They can take from
Yeah,
this and apply it. Like tomorrow, you can start tomorrow. Wake up in the morning and just start thanking. Be grateful for whatever it is you want to be grateful for, and then or
right.
tonight before you go to bed, or both.
Yeah,
So I think I like things like that people can take away and be like, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to start this
yeah.
today.
Just try it. It couldn't hurt you.
Right? Yeah, can't do anything bad.
Hey, but if it works, you got to share it. All right, because that really is what makes it grow exponentially, and that's what's going to help accelerate the process of healing
Yes.
each other and the planet.
Yeah. Even if it's just one person will become more people.
Yeah, it's always like that. It's always like that, and we can't always see it. Like I said, that's what's so amazing to me when I do see through email and whatever, I do get that feedback more. It's just nice to have some confirmation
Yeah.
that things are working in that direction. And you would never know it if you watch the news or something.
No.
You would think, God, the world's falling apart. But if you walk outside, hey, wait a minute, it looks freaking normal. What's going on here?
Yeah. Like my plants are sprouting, the people walking by are happy, that dog is happy, like everything's fine
Yeah,
out here.
yeah. It's just
Definitely.
so yeah. Try. Look. I know it's not easy,
No.
but we're all in this together. So let's make the best of it.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, before we leave, let's tell people again where they can find more of you, if they want to connect with you or look through some of your stuff, or if you have any projects coming up you want people to know about or anything like that.
Yeah, it's all on my website at unicusmagazine.com. It's spelled UNICUS magazine.com. And yeah, I put everything up there. And I also have a show on KGRA on Saturday nights. You can get the archive on my website. Like I said, everything I'm doing is there, except for the book that I was writing. I've really struggled with it because I wanted to tell it as a regular story, but I realized it's easier to tell as a novel.
Yeah. It's
Right?
easier to connect things in the order that they make sense in your head.
Yeah, because some things it's better left out, and so it's fiction. It's based on my real life. The main character is actually me, and I've been working on this for a long time. Turned into a trilogy.
Hmm.
It's way more work than I ever expected. So I hope I can get that out soon. But it's like, as you know, writing a book is wow. It's a really intense process.
It's a lot.
A lot
Yeah.
of work.
Yeah, well, that's
So
awesome. So that's not on your site yet, but it will be sometime soon.
no,
No?
not yet. No, I like I said, I hope I can get it done. It's really distract. Life gets in the way of these kind of projects because there's a lot of things that take priority.
Yeah, like eating and sleeping.
Well, yeah, to say the least. I mean that's not. Last year I had to move 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and buy 2 cars and 1 house. So it was a crazy time, and as much as I wanted to, sometimes you just can't work on creative projects like that because the necessity is you have to deal with all the wonderful things that life throws at us.
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. But the
Anyway,
birthing in the end is like the ultimate, I think, reward when you're finished with it and you're like, I did this. This is amazing. And especially then when other people connect with it and they're like, wow, you did this. And you're like, yeah, this
yeah, well,
thing.
the only reason I would write the book, or books, as I say, is to tell the story of the us. Even though I'm the main character talking about things that have, it's more talking about the progression of humanity since, let's just say, the 60s or something. It kind of has a backstory too when I find the ancient ruins,
Yeah.
which you can link to that. If you want to see what I'm talking about, just go to the articles section of my website, and it's called The Megalithic Monuments of Malibu. It's it's mind-boggling. A lot of people can't handle it. I don't know if it's Lemurian or Atlantis or whatever, but it's really ancient, and it's actually there. And I've turned a lot of people onto it, but it's not my discovery. It's our heritage.
Yes.
You see, so I can't really take credit for that. I was just guided there by the same beings that, brought me to the point where I'm having this conversation with you about these matters, because we're all, it's actually a crime not to know about your own heritage.
Yeah.
All right. That's one of the ways that the dark side controls us, is to not only divide and conquer, but to this veil of like amnesia.
Yeah.
Like, how do we get here? Well, what happened before? Well, you're not allowed to know that stuff. And it's essential. It really is essential. We really have like this mass amnesia right now. It's terrible.
Yes. And like George Orwell said, he who controls the past controls the present, controls the future.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to change all that.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you. All right. Well, what are your final sort of words of wisdom or ideas or advice that you want to leave people with as they're leaving tonight from this wonderful show?
Oh, well, it's always a privilege and a pleasure to speak publicly. I know it's a big responsibility. I always ask for guidance. I'm not always really good at this. I do make mistakes. So if I said something that's offending, I apologize. But my intention is to be very helpful, or as much as possible. Okay, I am human. I do make mistakes. But my heart is in the right place. And I just want you to understand the reason I do this work is because I love all of you, because we are all family, So for what it's worth, I appreciate everybody who's participating in a very positive way. And I would continue to, I'd ask you, please, to continue to be positive and patient as we go forward, because we're all making progress together and individually. It's a very important time to be alive.
Amen. Well, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this is your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to Robert Stanley. Robert, thank you so much for coming here tonight. It is a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure.
Awesome. All of my friends listening, you've got a light inside of you that nothing can extinguish but you. There is a darkness gathering at the corners and filling up the horizon. And there's only one thing that can stop darkness, and that is light. You are the light that stops the darkness. So shine bright, endless light, and never forget to travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak, while the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets food is sorcery. To recreate the God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Pinio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional 3 ain't meeting me on top of the 4th. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword, forged with ink drizzle, branched out. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasp hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. Put nanotech in the lungs. The awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
run.